Hi everyone, here's Abdul, and today I thought I'll do a quick video about a very interesting book that I just received. I've been participating in some school challenges, judging for school challenges and stuff like this, and one of the organizations that organized these events knew that I like watches and sent me a copy of this book that I didn't have before from the Design Museum, 50 Watches That Changed the World. As you can see, it's a printed one. So I think they had the ebook and they were like, yeah, why should we buy the book? We'll just print it out and send it to him, do the same thing. And I thought I'd share a couple of the special watches that I found with you guys. And if you have this book, please leave in the comment below if you have a newer version or if you have other recommendation for watch books for everyone to read. So as you can see, I marked a couple of the pages. I'll go page by page through all the book, and maybe we'll spend more time on the pages that that I highlighted, let's say. And as you can see, we have a lot of watches. I start here with the Seiko TV watch. Yeah, I'll go in a bit so you have even a better view of what I'm saying. And as you can see, we have here the first of the 50 watches, but then they go back in time. They go really back in time with Patek Philippe first wristwatch in 1868. And this is like the oldest European manufacturer, and I think it was the earliest version of a wristwatch. And it was for Countess Koskowitsk. Maybe I butchered the name. Please leave in the comment below if I did. After that, there was this Gerard Perregaux naval wristwatch, which is in 1880, if you can believe it. And it's like the original naval watch was ordered by Kaiser Wilhelm the first during 1879 Berlin Trade Fair. And the watch was made out of 14 karat gold to withstand salty atmosphere of the sea. So it wasn't a waterproof per se, but it was just to withstand the salty atmosphere at the sea. So the Kaiser wanted a watch for his summer vacation. So as you can see, even in the 1800s, people wanted a watch for the summer vacation. They're always looking for the, let's say, the steel sports watch, but in this time it was 14 karat gold. In 1904, we can see that one of the most famous watches of all time is the Cartier Santos, and Louis Cartier made it in 1904. The Brazilian pilot Millionaire as well. They didn't say that, but yeah, pilot Millionaire Alberto Santos Dumont, who helped popularize men's watches on board the aeroplane in 1907. So Louis Cartier made the watch for him, and after designing the watch, it had like famous other watches like the 10 came afterwards, but this was the start. And as I said, this was made by the help of Edmond Yeager and Louis Cartier, and it was dubbed the first men's wristwatch. Here we have an engraved pocket watch. Like I said, I highlighted some pages because I don't want to have a 2-hour video. That's why I just will go through the pages that I didn't have so much about. And sometimes I highlighted stuff that was very interesting for me. For instance, military watches were starting at the 1914. And here it reads that as from World War One, most of the authorities started buying specially designed military watches. The Japanese ordered from Seiko, Americans ordered from Hamilton and Bulova, and the German ordered from IWC, while the British relied on Omega and Movado. So as you can see here, we have a soldier in 1917, a Belgian soldier wearing his military wristwatch. And of course, this military watch trend continues until now. The first jump hour mechanism to show like a digital display was in the 1920s when Courbet created this unusual clock mechanism, and by 1932 they produced this watch. The first self-winding watch, which we call today automatic, was devised after John Harwood, a watch repair from Isle of Man, grew frustrated with fixing many watches with faulty winding crowns. And this is very interesting, because this means that the automatic movement just was invented because people the watchmaker were pissed off that the crown got broken. Not because it's much more useful or something like this. But by deep diving, we see here that one of the first mechanisms for a self-winding watch dates back to the invention by Abraham Louis Breguet at the end of 18th century, while John Harwood created this bumper automatic movement where you have a small pivot weight that goes bumping on both sides. Yeah, I thought that was very interesting. I've never heard of Harwood before, but now you know that the first self-winding movement, automatic movement, was in 1926. In 1926 also was the successful release of the Rolex Oyster, and it became the first significant watch and the first waterproof design with the Oyster case design. That had the unusual floating around the bezel of the Rolex Oyster helped improve the integrity of the waterproof seal. While the original seal has been completely redesigned, the floating is still included on many models as a decorative feature, as a nod to its heritage. So now we know where does the floated bezel comes from. It comes actually from the Oyster, comes from making it better waterproof, but now in the Datejust and in other models, it's more or less a decorative and just a throwback to their Oyster model. And actually, the solution was provided by two watchmakers, Paul Perregaux and Georges Perret, who had patented a new crown locking system. And Hans Wilsdorf was quickly to understand the value of this design and purchased the patent for Rolex. So even this Rolex didn't create, they just purchased the patent for Perregaux and Perret. They are both like Gerard Perregaux, and Perret is another watch brand. They were the one who did this. So this was very also new information for me. Lip was also the first one to create a tourbillon movement for the wristwatch in the 1930s. Although they were very small company, they weren't able to put this, but I thought it was very interesting. Of course, the tourbillon is an escapement that first developed by Abraham Louis Breguet in 1795 to counteract gravitational force to make the watch more precise. In modern watches, is more or less taken as the ultimate luxury, of course, with striking hours or chime complication as well. In 1945, Rolex released the Datejust, and the Datejust wasn't the first one to include the date function, but it was the first one to include a date function with a window, with a new display window. They had before that an arm that displayed the date, but Datejust was the only or the first watch to display the date in a window, and it was initially made only for men, and on the course of time, of course, they made for women, and of course now it's one of the most famous watches of all time, and it was released by Rolex in 1945. Another iconic watch, this time by Omega, is the Seamaster, and the Seamaster was designed actually to perform during any type of marine or aquatic activity. It had a luminescent coating for the hands and markers, and it made it especially useful for nighttime or deep sea dives. And the key design feature of the original Seamaster was the unique O-ring gasket used to provide the waterproof sealing. So that was also pretty interesting to see that in the 40s, Rolex 45, Omega Seamaster 48, and then Submariner 53. And Submariner, of course, I don't need any kind of introduction for the Submariner. It is, in my opinion, the most iconic watch in the history. And you can see John Connery wearing his. You have the original Submariner. And from 1953 and until now, I think there is no other watch that reached this height or this level of icon. I think the Rolex Submariner is the number one. But if we have to talk about icon and the heights, we have to talk about also not the Hamilton Ventura, but the Omega Speedmaster, because Omega Speedmaster was the first watch to reach space, and it is, in my opinion, the second most iconic watch after the Submariner. Like the two watches, I think if you took them anywhere in the world, people will notice them and know them directly is the Submariner and the Speedmaster. And as you can see here, we have one of the astronauts wearing the Speedmaster. And the original aesthetics and styling of the Speedmaster was said to be inspired by dashboard of mid-century Italian sports car. And the Speedmaster can today proudly claim to be the only piece of equipment, not watch, only piece of equipment that has been used during the Mercury, Gemini, Apollo, Skylab, Soyuz, Salyut, Space Shuttle Mir, and International Space Programs. All they were used, or Speedmaster was there. So that's a pretty big status for a watch. The Bulova Accuratron was made in the 1960s, was one of the first watches that hum. And you can see here the Max Bill, one of the most minimalistic watches that you can buy, and practically and function were central to Bill's design thinking, as seen in every detail of the watch. For young hands, note in this way, for instance, in each hour, hand perfectly lines up to the long indices representing the hour. So it makes it easier for the reader when having these long arrows to know what time it is by just looking. Hamilton in 1960 had the, I don't know if you see it here down there. Yeah, the Hamilton Odyssey and the Space Watch. And the Heuer Monaco, of course, one of the most iconic watches. I think maybe in the top 5 iconic watches of our time is the Heuer Monaco. And the Monaco was chosen personally by Steve McQueen from a variety of chronograph timepieces, selected and delivered to the Le Mans film set by Jack Heuer, the great grandson of the famous watchmaker's founder. The Monaco is now frequently referred as the McQueen in honor of the association and the screen legend in 71. And now we come to one of the watches that is, in my opinion, one of the most controversial watches in the history, the Seiko Quartz Astron 35 SQ. The 35 SQ was a groundbreaking new wristwatch, was accurate to 0.2 seconds per day, which was unheard of, which is 1 minute per year, and despite its exceptionally high price, the 18-karat gold sold more than 100 units within 1 week of its release. So you can see that people in the 60s were looking for accuracy, and if you're talking about quartz, it was actually invented in 1927 by Warren Warson and Horton at Bell Telephone Laboratories at the United States. But the Japanese manufacturer Seiko was the first to get them a product and launched it in Christmas, Tokyo 1969, causing what it's called now the quartz crisis. We have also another quartz watch, the Hamilton Pulsar. There is a new re-release from it, very cool. This one is even branded Tiffany & Co. We have the Lip Mach 2000, one of the very cool colorful designs by Roger Talon, and from the French watch manufacturer Lip. I'm just trying to go through faster through the last couple of ones because we're already 15 minutes and I don't want to make it longer for you. But if you're still here, please do subscribe, please do like the video. It helps a lot, and if you have any questions about anything, please leave them in the comment down below. And we can see now one of Gerald Genta's design, 1976 Nautilus. The first Nautilus was actually called 3700-1 and was designed to mimic the porthole window common on maritime vessel. And if you don't know, these two pieces, these two unusual lumps on each of the side were actually a result of functional imperative and help creating waterproofing and sealing the case. So that was new information as well. There is a Brown, there is a Concord Delirium, Seiko TV watch. Of course, we all remember this from our childhood. And one of our also childhood watches is the Casio G-Shock. The Casio G-Shock was released in 1983, and in the US Navy began supplying the dive teams with Casio G-Shock watches instead of Rolex. Poor US Navy in 83. They used to have Rolex before that, and then G-Shocks. I would have been pissed. I would say, like, give me my Rolex. While the G-Shocks were reliable performance underwater, the principal reason for changing were the Casio comparative cheapness and the easiness in which they could be fixed at time of fault. So that's why they used the Casio. We have also the Seiko voice note from the Ghostbusters film, the Sinclair and Research radio watch, where you have a watch with a small radio, and of course, who can forget the calculator watch from Back to the Future? Michael J. Fox was wearing it. I think all of us had one in some part of our kids as lives as kids. And of course, one of the watches that created a boom in the Swiss manufacturing industry and was one of the reasons of the end of the Quartz crisis is the Swatch watch. In 1985, they created the first Swatch collaboration, which was designed by Kiki Picasso. And in 1983, where they launched this brand, the Swatch, and it's positioned the collection as a casual, fun, and affordable alternative to the luxury timepieces. And models were usually made from inexpensive materials such as rubber and plastic. The name Swatch is actually a contraction of second watch. So Swatch, second watch. I didn't know that as well. So pretty cool information. We have Mundane, the railway watches, that's also pretty famous. The Seiko Speedmaster Sports 100 series. We have also the Swatch Pops watch, this pop-up art watch for kids as well. Alicia Momento, I have no idea about this. If you have information, leave them in the comment below. Of course, Swatch and Flick Flack, this was the first ever brand of children watches to introduce the concept of teaching the time. And by using the ideas developed with the help of teachers and psychologists, these specially designed watches allow the learning experience to be transformed into something amusing and fun. So if you find the Flick Flack, get it to your son or daughter. They will love it. They will learn how to read time with it. Movado, they made like a 5-time watch from Andy Warhol. Louis Vuitton had the LV1 watch in 1988, where you can see they made a Grand Complication watch. Brown had a simplistic design, a quartz design, and here we have one of the futuristic styling from designer Steve Sonne, the brand Storm, where you have here the hours and minutes. Pretty cool, and it was from London. Still Alessio, no idea the brand. Issey Miyake, I thought it's perfume brand, but yeah. This called Trapezoid AL. The shape wasn't there before 2008, and the shape was designed from Nato Fukasawa. And we get to one of the brands that we hear about all the time, Richard Mille RM011 Felipe Massa Flyback Chronograph. Flyback chronograph, of course, is an intricate watch complication where the stopwatch function is reset and restarted by a single press of a button. And you can see that in 2001, Richard Mille was a relative newcomer. And in 2008, he started this, or created this Felipe Massa Formula One inspired special edition or limited edition, and from that point on, Richard Mille was the watch of Formula One and watch of the rich people. Nike, we have the Fuel Band, 2013 Pebble, 2013 Galaxy, and 2013 we have also this watch for blind people. As you can see that it was made up. The watch also designed to appeal the sighted. The Bradley is named after the American Paralympic medalist Bradley Schneider, who lost his sight while serving in Afghanistan. By touching a small ball held in a place of magnet, user can feel the time as well as see it. The magnet around the perimeter of the case moves with the hour, while the second ball bearing rotating around the face of the dial within the minutes. So you have here the hours and you have here the minutes, and by touching them you can know the time. But a pretty cool movement. Slow draw, 1 arrow hand, bottle shaped watches, and Apple Watches 2005. So I hope you enjoyed this kind of video. If you did, please do leave a like, also subscribe, and if you have any comments on this book or any other thing, please leave them in the comments below. Thank you so much, and hope to see you in the next one. Bye. By the way, I'm wearing this Nomos, forgot to tell you.